Hi, I'm Chef Frank. This is Proto Cooks, and today we're making Zeppolis. You might know Zeppolis as something you get at a fair or a feast. They're not funnel cakes. Usually you get them at Italian festivals or feasts. We called them feasts where I grew up. And they come in a paper bag with tons of powdered sugar on them, and they're just basically a very quick and easy donut. I learned to make these from my Aunt Lucy. Aunt Lucy was my grandmother's sister, and this is her recipe. And this is something that we had during the holidays. It wasn't kind of an everyday food. You'd have it around festivals and you know, just family gatherings and stuff like that. The funny thing is that we used to have them sweet, and then they also used to make them savory with an anchovy in the middle. And as a kid, I hated that. But for the most part, I think they're kind of delicious now. So let's get into the ingredients and make the Zeppolis. So here are the ingredients for my Zeppolis. 3 cups flour, about 3 cups of flour, 1 packet of instant yeast, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and about 2 to 2.5 cups of just warm water. And it couldn't be any simpler. All you got to do is dump everything in the bowl. Everything gets dumped in, except for all the water. I don't necessarily want all the water in there yet, and you stir everything together. I have a little more water than I need, so I'm just going to put the water in. I'm not going to use all of it. I'm going to leave about 1/2 cup, and I'm going to stir. You can see I'm using a wooden spoon here, and I'm using a wooden spoon on purpose because they're really strong, and this dough gets pretty firm. If you use a spoon that is, or a spatula that's a little flimsy or isn't as strong as a wooden spoon, you'll see that it's going to break or snap, okay? And then I'm going to mix this. So you can see like I'm starting to get kind of a sticky dough. I think we're good on water. I have a little more flour on the side here in case I need to add it. And we're going to just continue to mix this. So see how it's getting nice and sticky? I'm going to add just a touch more flour. Just a little. That's why I said earlier about 3 cups. Because for the most part, you're going to eyeball this. Right? So I'm making kind of a sticky batter, right? And I'm going to work this, just a little more flour. Okay, I think that's good. So I'm going to work this and just keep working it until I have a nice sticky batter. So we just keep on stirring this until it's nice and thick. And you can see that it's starting to kind of get a little stretchy. And that's what I want. I want it to be a moist dough that's fairly stretchy. And earlier on I said it's about 3 cups of flour and it's about 2 cups of water. And here's the reasoning for that. You know, Aunt Lucy was old school. She was first generation American. Her parents were from Italy. And they didn't really measure things. So a lot of times when I go to my old family recipes, they aren't measured out. And I had to kind of like, you know, estimate here and write it down and make it into a recipe that a chef would use. So you might need to adjust this batter depending on, you know, the way you weigh things, the way you measure things. But at the end of the day, I want this to be a little bit of a sticky, kind of loose batter. You can see as I mix, I'm working the gluten in the flour, but it's sticky and fairly loose. Not wet, but just sticky and loose, okay? So you might have to mess around with this a little more flour, a little more water, but those are the kind of basic measurements that I got from this recipe, okay? So next thing we're gonna do is get rid of this spoon. And because this is a yeast dough, hold on, we're gonna wrap it with plastic and let it rise, right? We're going to put it in a warm place, and this is going to probably take about an hour to rise. It'll double in size, and then we fry. So the Zeppoli dough is ready. I'm going to uncover it. I kept it in a warm place for about an hour and a half. It's a little cool out today, so it took a little longer, so I put it into the oven with the door open and just the oven light. But you can you see that? The bubbles. It smells fermented. You start to smell a little like beer, and that's what we want. Okay, we're going to go over to the stove and fry these suckers up. So over by the stove, I have everything I need. I have my dough, a spoon, and I have like a fairly big spoon. It's a little bigger than a tablespoon. Vegetable oil heating up. I'm looking for about 350 degrees. I don't really use a thermometer. I just mess around with it. A bowl to take the hot Zeppoli out, and some confectioner's sugar or 10x sugar. Because if anyone's ever had a Zeppoli before, you know that you need to have tons of confectioner's sugar, and that your first bite you always breathe some in and cough. I also have a strainer. This will help us get the Zeppoli out of the oil. So let's fry some up. So we're ready to fry. One of the most important things here is to control your temperature. So we're staying about 350, and I'll see this on how they fry. If they get too dark too quick, I'll lower my heat. If they're not getting dark enough, I'll raise the heat. One thing that you want to be sure of too is this. This dough has risen. It has a lot of air in it right now. You don't want to get your spoon in there and mix it up. What that's going to do is that's going to make your Zeppoli really, really dense, because you're knocking all the air out. So what I do is I'm very careful not to get the air out as I take the dough and put it into the oil. I'm very careful to like leave as much air as possible in my dough. So I'm not going to stir this before I throw my Zeppoli into the fat, right? That's one of the biggest mistakes people make here, is that they'll stir it up and then their Zeppolis are really heavy. You just got to be really careful with this. Handle it lightly, and I usually just scoop from one side. Just scoop from the side and lightly drop it in so that these are nice and fluffy and airy, okay? End of the day, these are going to be a little oily, and that's okay. That's one of the things about these Zeppoli that, you know, actually makes them delicious. They're a little fatty, a little oily, but they're delicious, okay? So we're going to let them fry on both sides. And I got my little turner here, so just going to go and watch them. I'm going to start out by taking a little of this 10x sugar and putting it down at the bottom and just kind of spreading it out, so that when I take the Zeppoli out, they go right into my sugar, okay? You can see that they're bubbling really nicely, and bubbling is good. Bubbling means that they are frying, the water or the liquid is coming out, and they're not going to be super greasy, although we want them to be a little fatty. I don't mind a little fatty with Zeppoli, okay? I want them to be nice and golden brown. That's how I know they're done. They're golden brown on both sides. They only take about 3 to 4 minutes per batch. And if you have a bigger pot, you can use a bigger pot. When you go to feasts and festivals, they have a huge pot of oil. But this is how I do it. If you wanted to do the savory version, you can get a half a piece of anchovy out of the tin, and before you drop it on the spoon, coat up your anchovy, and then throw it in. I would do those after I did the sweet ones. They had always cooked the sweet ones first. All the old Italian aunties and grandmas would cook the sweet ones first, and the last would be the anchovy one, or alige they called it. This is also, you can reuse this oil, because for the most part, when you cook these, it doesn't make the oil really dirty, and you can reuse the oil. I let it cool down, put it in the fridge until the next time I make these. Okay, so they're bubbling away nicely, and we're almost there. I'll wait till they're nice and golden brown. You can see they're nice and airy. They're bubbling away happily. Okay, we're almost there. Good. Okay, so I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to give it a good tap. Don't throw away. You have little pieces and bits that break off. Don't throw those away. Those are the best part. Those are crispy and delicious. So you take them out, drain them really well right into your confectioner's sugar, your 10x sugar. Okay. Get them nice and covered in your confectioner's sugar. If you have a dredge or a sifter, this might be easier, but I just like to take it, give it a shake. You can hear they're super crispy on the outside. they're going to be nice and soft on the inside, okay? And that's it. Let's go taste. So here are the Zeppolis. They're done. They're hot. They're crispy. They're drenched in confectioner's sugar. I'm going to taste one now. I'm going to make sure that I get one that has a lot of sugar on it. Look at that. It's crispy, sweet. Bring me back to my childhood. Thank you, Aunt Lucy. May you rest in peace. Delicious. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe. Enjoy the Zeppolis. See you soon.